Hey, good morning, Facebook fans, Veterans Council veterans. One of the things I always try to emphasize: the holidays are here, and the holidays by themselves is already a stressor. But then, if you had the backdrop of the COVID-19, the elections, and the riots and protests, it's even more stressful. So, my point is, you got to really know your local resource. Welcome, I'm Tony Williams, and welcome to the Know Your Local Resource update. And as you guys may know, if people out there know that we have starting 2 weeks ago, we have started to provide a spotlight on local resources in the Hillsborough County area, Hillsborough and Pinellas County. And last week we had the mayor on, and week for that we had Camaraderie Foundation. And this week we're going to have on Bay Area Legal. But first, let me sit there and give you the schedule, what our schedule looks like for the next couple of weeks coming up. You see here, we got the Bay Area Legal for this week. We got on the 13th, we have the Veteran Homeless Advocates, and there you'll have the Tampa Crossroads, and we'll have the American Legion, Department of American Legions as far as homeless veterans, and they're going to give you some kind of insight that you need to know about as the holidays come on. Then we're going to have the Councilman Luis Vieira. Then we're going to have some organizations that are in the area that support veterans on. Then we're going to have what's called Focus on the Family, the Veterans Family, and we're going to have mostly mental health counselors who specialize in marriage and family therapy on, try to give you some hints and stuff to cope with the upcoming holidays. And finally, we're going to end with domestic violence. We're going to have the spring on, and there are our local resources when it comes to domestic violence. Finally, before the holidays or the Christmas come, you'll get a chance to sit there and meet the Veterans Council and Veterans Tribe. But until then, we're going to sit there and introduce you our guest for this afternoon is going to be Jennifer Broomfield, who is also the staff attorney for the Veterans Legal Hotline. So no further ado, let's introduce Jennifer.
Hi, Tony. Thank you so much for having me here today. I really appreciate the opportunity to talk to veterans about the exciting work that we do at Bay Area Legal Services focused on veterans. The Veterans Legal Helpline is part of the Major General Ernest A. and Marilyn Bedke Veterans Law Center at Bay Area Legal. So in addition to the helpline, we also have medical legal partnerships at the Bay Pines VA in Pinellas and the Haley VA in Tampa. And if any veterans are interested in accessing services at those medical legal partnerships, they should contact their social worker at the various facilities and they will get them in touch. The Veterans Legal Helpline is an exciting project that started in July of 2019. And since that time, we have served 941 veterans. We're on track to serve over 800 just in 2020 alone. And we provide telephone advice and brief services to veterans throughout the state of Florida. So they don't have to live in Hillsborough. They don't have to live in Tampa. They can live anywhere in the state of Florida. And we help with most civil legal questions. The big ones that we get are family law. So of that 941 cases, 268 were family law issues, then followed by housing, landlord-tenant, mortgage foreclosures, things like that. 240 cases. And then the next big one is benefits, whether it's veterans benefits or public assistance or food stamps. We get about 159 cases of those a year. We also will advise veterans who need to do a discharge upgrade, what that process would look like, and the sort of companion process of doing character of discharge reviews through the VA, which is an alternate route to accessing health care if you have bad paper.
Yeah, and that's a lot. You just said a lot. And I think a lot of people didn't even know how much you guys did as far as I'm sure a lot of people didn't even know they had a Florida legal hotline until now. And so that's a lot. And they're all needed. Can you give us an example of what kind of stuff you see when it comes to the family services and then give an example?
Sure. So we see a range. We see everything from a veteran who needs to file for divorce and doesn't know how to do that, to a veteran who maybe, let's say, they're homeless or they're working with HUD-VASH at the VA, and their child support is so high that they can't afford to pay their rent. Now, obviously, we want people to take care of their children, but we also need to make sure that veterans don't get homeless, right? So sometimes there needs to be a middle ground, and we can advise them about how to file for a child support modification so that they're taking care of their kids, but they're also able to take care of themselves. Sometimes we'll see some domestic violence concerns where they want help with getting an injunction, things like that. In terms of housing, probably our number one is landlord-tenant issues, and that's either with evictions or maybe a vet moved out and was counting on his or her security deposit coming back to them, and for some reason the landlord's withholding it, but landlords can only do that if they follow certain procedures. So we can advise veterans on that. And those are probably our two biggest areas.
Now, can you give us an insight? I know I think if it's Hillsborough or Florida, they've lifted the moratorium on evictions.
So right now, the main avenue for protection is the national CDC eviction moratorium, which and that's something I really encourage if veterans feel like they're in trouble or they may not be able to pay the rent, that they call the helpline at 1-866-486-6161. And I'll say that again, 866-486-6161. Because there are steps that they can take to protect themselves with the CDC moratorium, a declaration that they have to provide to their landlord. But they need to make sure they're doing it the right way. So it's best if they call us and we can walk them through it.
You know, it's interesting that, Jennifer, you mentioned some things that we're having some shows on and talking about. We're talking about the domestic violence with the spring.
Right.
And we have talking about the homeless starting next week. So you guys, in some way, tie into all that in one way or the other.
Yeah, and you know, we work very closely with like Tampa Crossroads and St. Vincent de Paul. They both have supportive services for veterans' families, and those are very important partners for us because they can help a veteran if the veteran needs some financial assistance to avoid the eviction. So St. Vincent de Paul and Bay Area work very closely together. We just had a case last week where we were working closely together to get a resolution, because the one thing you want to avoid at all costs is an eviction on your record, right? Because if you get evicted, aside from the immediate danger of being homeless during a pandemic, that's going to be on your housing record forever. Evictions can't get expunged like some criminal cases can. So anytime a future landlord is looking you up, they're going to see an eviction, and that's going to make it more difficult to get good housing down the road. So we always want veterans to call us, even if they think, wow, I'm not sure I'm going to be able to make next month's rent, I don't know what to do. The earlier a veteran calls us, the more we're going to be able to help avoid an eviction.
You know, and I want to bring up that your website you mentioned too, so people can see how to navigate that.
Absolutely. So this is our main page, and you're going to see a helpline number there. That's the general helpline number. A veteran can call that, and if they say they're a veteran, they'll get scheduled with either myself or one of the other helpline attorneys. So it's not a helpline, it's not a hotline, it's a helpline. And what that means is the veteran's going to call, they're going to be screened by a screener to make sure it's a case that we can handle and they meet eligibility criteria, and then they're going to be scheduled for an appointment with one of us. If they call the number that's up there on the webpage, they'll get diverted to the veteran program as soon as they tell the screener they're a veteran, but they can also call the Veterans Legal Helpline directly, which again, 866-486-6161. But they can also in the box, the search box, put in veteran, click on that, and they'll see all kinds of like frequently asked questions about what they can do in various situations. If they are mainly concerned about a landlord-tenant issue, they can put into that search box tenant, and they'll get a link to our landlord-tenant handbook. That's the Bay Area Legal Services Landlord-Tenant Handbook, which is going to walk them through a variety of common issues. So here you see the what comes up for veterans and every possible question you might have, and links to it. We also a few months back
Yeah.
did a couple of Facebook Live events on discharge upgrades. So if they Google that, Bay Area Legal Services and discharge upgrades on YouTube, they'll be able to see those videos as well.
Talking about, and that's one of the biggest concerns when you talk about the veterans. You talk about the veterans discharge.
Yep.
Can you talk about that? Give us an example of what you do for that.
So we can advise a veteran on how to do a discharge upgrade, right? Because it depends upon when they got discharged as to whether they're going to go through the discharge review board or the board for correction and military records. We can advise them on what the process is. We can give them manuals that will help them do it on their own. They can also possibly be referred to like the Veterans Consortium, which can provide pro bono representation. It sort of and that's a totally different agency. That's not us. But it depends upon what their circumstances are and what they need. But we can, if a veteran just fills out a DD 149, which is the form you fill out to request an upgrade through the Board for Correction and Military Records, and they just send that one page in, they're not going to get a discharge upgrade. They have to send in a lot more. They have to send in a personal statement. They should send in character references from battle buddies or COs or family members. They need to talk about what they have done post-discharge that's positive. So there's a lot to it. We could do a whole day on how to do a discharge upgrade.
Yeah, and please, in the future, when you're having these webinars, whatever, please let me know, and I'll try to share it and everything as well. So that way, the more people know about it, the better it is.
Yep.
I think as the reason why I'm having this, Veterans Council Veterans having this podcast for this week is mainly because we're trying to be prepared, proactive for the holidays. Any kind of insights you may think now that the holidays come out that people should start looking at it right now? Don't wait until it happens.
Well, I think with our two big areas, family law and housing law, those are things that can be really impacted by the holidays and the pandemic, right? So if people feel unsafe in their home for any reason, like they feel like they need to separate from their partner or things like that, that's something that they should call us on. If they feel unsafe in their housing because their landlord is either threatening to evict them or their landlord's not taking care of the property like it should and it's unsafe. A lot of people think, oh, well, if my landlord isn't taking care of the property, I can just withhold my rent because they're not giving me heat or running water, right? Or I can pay for the repair and take that out of my rent. It doesn't work like that in Florida. There's a specific process you have to do with the landlord called a 7-day notice to withhold. And if you don't do that and you don't pay your rent, the landlord can, sure enough, go ahead and file an eviction proceeding against you.
Wow.
So,
Yeah.
My short
last minute.
Right, exactly. And my short answer to that question is call us. Call us. The earlier, the better, right? The sooner we know about a problem, the more options you're going to have for fixing it.
Well, that's a lot of good information. Like you said, you guys cover so much. We probably spend a whole day just on these topics. But I just wanted to give the people out there that are part of the Veterans Council Veterans community the insights of the resource they can tap into before something hits. And you're definitely one of a great resource, not just in Hillsborough, but the whole state. That's important. You're actually the whole state as well. Yep. You mentioned the partners. Can you go over the partners again that you have? That's part of what you guys do?
Sure. So we have lots of partnerships. We have a partnership with the Attorney General's Military Veterans Assistance Program. So they often refer cases to us. We refer cases to them. We have partnerships with 211 and Mission United, with the Veterans Treatment Court in Hillsborough, and St. Vincent de Paul. There's supportive services for veterans family. We have medical legal partnerships. So pre-COVID, we would have attorneys embedded a couple of times a month at Haley and more regularly at Bay Pines. Now they're not there, but they're still taking referrals from social workers at Bay Pines or at Haley. We have relationships with the Tampa Vet Center, which if your problem isn't legal, but it's mental health or stress or social services, I highly recommend the vet centers. They are great, great, powerful resources for veterans. And the University of South Florida, Florida Office of Veteran Success, we're funded. The helpline is funded by the Florida Department of Veterans Affairs, which we are very grateful for. And we also very excitedly, we got an Equal Justice Works fellow, Maria Zagalis, to help us. So we have 2 attorneys on the helpline, and we have Maria and our team leader, Alexandra Sursik, and Sherilyn Hansen is another advocate. Those 3 do sort of extended cases, and Sherilyn works at the Haley Medical Legal Partnership. And then Betty Thomas and I are the Veterans Legal Helpline attorneys.
Wow, that's a lot. I don't know.
Yeah.
Like, military, we used to these line and block charts. We can say, okay, that's not like a lot of people, but we know that we're glad that there's resources, and I will continue to, it's our role as community leaders, veteran community leaders, all people out there. We should know more about Bay Area Legal. That should be something in our tool bag, because we got to be ready for that. And one of the things I also want to, and is it okay? Because a lot of time when you see something for veterans and stuff, they kind of don't talk about the families. So is it okay for a family member to sit there and reach out to you?
That is such a great question, Tony. I'm glad you asked that. And yes, we the criteria for getting help from the Veterans Legal Helpline is either to be a veteran or an active duty service member or a family member, as long as whatever the issue is affecting the veteran as well, right? So let's say the veteran's wife wants to call because they're concerned about getting evicted. That's fine, right? They can call and we will help them. Now, if the veteran would be on the other side of the legal issue, from what the family member is calling, the Veterans Legal Helpline is not going to be able to assist. Now, there may be another program within Bay Area that can, but we're working with veterans and their families as long as the family member who's calling has an issue that's the veteran also needs help with, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I figured that. It's like that in the military too, and active duty, the same thing. They kind of, when it's between 2 parties, they kind of like shy away a little bit. One of the things that we do at Veterans Council Veterans, we feel like when you want to be effective when it comes to suicide prevention, you got to include the whole community. And I consider you guys one of the first contacts, right? Not just the first responders, but you guys. So because of, one of the main big reasons why people think about suicide is relationships and stuff. So I'm hoping we have you part of that community, that collaborating piece, because you are one of the first contacts when somebody's having some problems. We'll talk to you first before you'll find out first before we do at the end of the middle.
Right. Right.
So
absolutely.
Anyway, so hey, you know what? Let me before we start off here, and do you have anything you want to sit there and add before we take off?
I just want to give that number again, 866-486-6161. That's the Veterans Legal Helpline. Call and you can get scheduled with a phone appointment to speak to a Florida licensed attorney about most, not all, but most civil legal issues.
And is this phone line is a 24/7? What's
no, it's during regular business hours, Monday to Friday. They can leave a message 24/7, but they're not going to talk to an actual person after hours or on the weekend. They can leave a message and then somebody can call back. They can also apply for services online as well. So whatever works for the veteran, no wrong door, right? That's our policy. No wrong door for getting access to us.
All right. Well, you know what? I want to thank you so much, Jennifer, for coming on and having all these resources for the veteran community.
Absolutely.
And hopefully, hopefully we're not overworked too much just for this holiday. But, we got to be ready just in case.
Yeah, absolutely.
And again, so that number is
866-486-6161.
I say again, 866-486-6161. You get to the Florida Veterans Support Line. So thank you very much, Jennifer, and I'll finish with some closing comments. Thank you again, Jennifer.
All right, thank you so much.
Roger. So there you have it. One of our guests for the spotlight for Know Your Local Resources, Bay Area Legal. They're not just for Hillsborough, but for the state. But you got to know them. This is something you need to have in your toolbox if you want to sit there and know somebody. And if you don't, even if it's not you, it's going to be somebody else. All right. So share it. I always say share. You may be blessing somebody just by sharing something like Bay Area Legal. Before I leave, next week we're going to be doing the homeless advocates, people out there who actually out there, the grassroots, checking out the homeless, they know the resources that are out there for homeless veterans. So please sign on next week on Friday. If not, I will record it and I'll distribute it. But share again. This is Tony Williams from Veterans Counseling Veterans. Good day.